What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and today we have a very special video for the channel. We're doing a live interview here with Mike Dentale. Mike, welcome to the channel, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so before we jump into this, a couple things I just want to talk about out of the gate. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch tomorrow at 3 p.m. First stream back in a long time. Check it out if you're interested. And also, we're going to have kind of the complimentary interview to this. We're going to have Cate Hall here on the channel at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday, so you can get both sides of the story here if you're interested in that as well. Okay, so with those things out of the way, Mike, can you give us like a little background on who you are, kind of like how you found poker, where you're from, kind of like a little bit about yourself, just so we can understand a bit more who you are?
Sure. Basically, I guess I picked up poker because I used to swing hard with blackjack. Um, I was always fortunate in my life to make money. I've ran many different businesses, and I've always did very well. And by me doing well, always allowed me to go to Atlantic City every weekend. And usually I go with a bunch of my friends. A lot of my friends also made a lot of money, so together we'd go swinging and swing on the weekends and play blackjack. And when I first started playing blackjack, I thought you could beat the game. I thought it was. I won a few times. I lost a few times. We enjoyed it, and I started playing it heavenly. And after a while, it got to the point where I just couldn't win. I would lose huge numbers, 40, 50,000 a weekend, consistently. And after maybe about a year, I lost big numbers. I just said, you know what, I'm sick of this game. You do realize it's a game you can't beat, and casinos are there because of that game, so it doesn't make sense for you to win in the long run anyway. And people that do win don't realize they're going to win for a certain period of time, but in the long run they're going to lose. So it takes a lot for that really to sink in. And I finally got to the point where I said, you know what, I can't play this game anymore. But I enjoyed getting away on the weekends. I enjoyed being in casinos. I enjoyed, the suites and, nice dinners and hanging out with my friends. And I wind up picking up poker. Funny story though is I think it was 2003. The Borgata just opened up, and we went to the new poker room, and I sat down like at their biggest game. It was a 10-25 game, and I bought it, I think, for like 15,000, and I had a blast. I understood poker, but no way at a level where I could beat the game or actually knew what I was doing. And I would get lucky in a few hands here and there, but I enjoyed it. And if I lost 8 or 10,000, that was like a win, because I would lose 40, 50,000 in blackjack. So to me, it was like,
Yeah.
it was a win, and I actually started playing. That's how I picked up poker. And that was my thing. I started playing and playing and playing. And the funny thing about it is where I came to poker from a different angle, meaning that I didn't need to do it for money, which I think is huge. When people have to do it for money, they're going to approach it in a different way. They're going to respect their bankroll more. They're not going to enjoy the game. They're going to play it more as a business. And that wasn't it for me. For me, it was more having fun. I had a gambling mentality, which I enjoyed the game even more, and I could afford to take the loss.
Right. So
But
do you
yeah,
think like yeah, because when you bring up like coming from a gambling background, like as like a fun thing relative to like for a living, I'm obviously kind of on the other side of the fence there. I've always come from like the professional background. All the guys started with like very little money, and like everything they have is from poker. But the good thing about that is that it makes it so that you have to be really sharp on your game, because if you're not sharp on your game, you're gonna go broke, right? So
100%.
like I do you think that maybe for people coming from that side of things, it's tougher to really make sure that you're playing really good poker, because if you lose, like, you can afford to take the hit, right? It's not going to be it. Like, you're making money elsewhere.
Right. It is true. I mean, people say that also, just like in the same analogy as when you have someone like Daniel Negreanu who was playing a
Oh,
tournament where you
don't
could
don't don't
rebuy.
even get me started.
And they say, well,
Uh,
he's got the money and he could rebuy until he wins. Some people say that about cash game players. Listen, they could, withstand the losses, and they could take, losing big amounts and keep, moving forward. Whereas you get a kid that, maybe only has a $2,000 bankroll, and if he makes a mistake and gets stacked, he can't continue to practice, in a real field, with a bunch of guys, and come back to a casino and play, and keep moving forward and just take it on the chin and learn from his mistakes. It's pretty tough when you're working. Also, if he's put to the test and he has to make that call, and in the back of his mind he's like, wow, if I'm wrong here, I'm broke and I won't be able to play this game anymore, or this is going to take a big chunk out of my bankroll. It's the same, thinking when you're with a guy who has money and is in a rebuy, and he's like, fuck it, I could rebuy, I'm going to put this guy all in with ace king, and if I lose, I'll rebuy. It's same mentality, same thing when you're playing the game.
I mean, I remember when I started poker, and it looks kind of funny now looking back on it, right? But I remember when I started poker and thinking like, man, the smallest stakes you can play at a casino are like 1-2, right? And generally you can buy in for like a couple $100. But, when I found poker, I was in high school, and like a couple $100 was a lot to me. So like there was like no way I could even, go play those games, because I couldn't afford to lose 200 when I was 18. I don't know about you, I mean, you or any of our viewers, but I was not in a position to be able to do that, right? So, if it wasn't for online poker giving me the shot to like build up a bankroll to one day get into those games, then that's definitely true. But, in general, if you're using good bankroll management, kind of, no matter what, like whether you're a pro or you play recreationally, if you're using, bankroll management, you should basically always have the ability to rebuy, either taking a smaller piece of yourself, like selling to other people, or playing stakes that you're comfortable with. Once you're playing stakes that if you get stacked, it's going to really hurt you, it's basically always going to be tough for you to make a good decision. But I want to kind of just go back, just a little bit more onto your background, just for a second here.
Sure.
So you're from, where exactly are you from? New York?
I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
I lived in Manhattan, and I moved back into Brooklyn, and now I have a place in Manhattan again. So today I live in both Brooklyn and Manhattan, New York.
Okay, cool. So you're more East Coast, like the Borgata, I assume, like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about the original spark to this fire, because I can tell you, like, I'm on Twitter every day, so I was on Twitter and I just saw you guys just start going to town, and I was honestly taken aback a little bit, because you guys were like, it was like you guys were not holding anything back. People were getting called crackheads. Cate was ending every tweet with bitch. Like, it was just back and forth, and I was like, man, this is some serious stuff. It got like kind of dirty, So
right.
What exactly kicked that off, that got the ball rolling on this whole thing?
No matter how much, I own a business, and how, I have a career, I'm involved in poker pretty much a lot. And I know a lot of well-known players. I know a lot of recreational players. And because I'm a well-known person besides poker, when I would go to Atlantic City, I would run into millions of people, because my whole life, I always stood out. I always played sports, always made money, always had the nicest things, the nicest cars, the hottest girls. And I strive to enjoy my life and make money and just live life at the fullest. I enjoyed, nice things. And I used to go away on vacations and spring breaks, and we had a huge crew of guys from Brooklyn, and we knew all the guys from Queens and all the guys from Staten Island and all the guys from the Bronx. And when we would go out to Manhattan, everybody knew each other. So I always knew a lot of people. When I went to Atlantic City, I would run into tons of people I knew. So I was a well-known figure, and I knew a lot of people. So when it came into poker, I enjoyed it. I stood out. I got to know a lot of people, and I started following it. And when I started following it, I would start picking up on things, and and then Twitter came out, and I was the type of person that said what I felt.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of people would
very consistently have always said what you felt. I've seen a lot of that.
And I would get, like I said, I know a lot of well-known people, whether it be in poker or out of poker, and they would say, that's what I fucking love, that you say what you want when you want it. And a lot of them can't do that just because of backlash, and just because they worry about what other people think, and just, a lot of other things. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't give you the license to be, straight out disrespectful or out of line, but you could more say what you feel. And a lot of people would enjoy that and liked it. And you know what? That's who I am. I'm a, I tell it like it is, and I don't shy away from controversy, and I'll, and I'll stand my ground. But I'm also an understanding type of guy. I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think I'm always right. And, I will listen to both sides of an argument. Long story short, I watched a lot of people come into the game of poker. Been around it for about 10 years. And a main reason why I could be around is because I had a business and made money. So I was able to see really successful people in poker disappear, get wiped out. And, just thinking about that, I said, I would say, wow, here's a guy, he's a fucking great cash game player. And now he's broke. Wow, here's a good friend of mine. He won $2 million in tournament earnings. Now he's, giving head under the boardwalk for buy-ins. So my point is that, I wanted to understand why, like blackjack, finally clicked in. Why can't anybody win in blackjack? The game is geared for you to lose. People would say, wow, I lost with a 20. Wow, I lost with a 19. Wow, I pulled 22. I pulled 20. She pulled 21 with 8 cards. It's supposed to be like that. You're supposed to lose in blackjack. So when poker came around, I was like, really? I thought, poker was more of a game of skill. You're not supposed to lose if you're a skillful player. And then yet I would see skillful players that were really good make a lot of money and then lose it all, whether it be in cash or tournament. And then I began to realize, what variance was about and, how what running good meant and running bad meant. And I would see some people come onto the scene and run really well. And when it was usually young players, like in their 19s or 20 or 21, they would come off very cocky. And it was understandable because they're kids. It's like, a kid becoming a movie star in his 20s and making a lot of money and getting a lot of fame. Most of them don't know how to handle that, react in the correct way, and they act immature and they come off like a dick. And then you have some really mature 20-year-olds that could, accept it and grasp the being popular and the fame and the money, and they handle it pretty well. But most in the game of poker, where I seen most kids that did really well didn't know how to handle it. Came off cocky and acted like an asshole. And in the back of my mind, I would laugh because I would say, this guy's going to go broke and it's going to all come back to him. And he's going to, realize it's a tough game to beat.
A few things before we jump in and talk about Cate in a moment.
Sure.
So first off, the thing about poker where you said, you get to say whatever you want, right? I mean, that's really true. And I guess one of the things that has been a little tough for me personally, I've always been a poker player. I've always been poker first. I got to the high stakes the right way through cash games, worked my way up. And I basically did it a lot of the time, just if I felt something, I always said it and I didn't really care about it, and if you thought I was a dick, whatever, that happens sometimes. But it's been interesting for me now because now that, I do YouTube, Twitch, all this stuff, it's tough because if you say what you think, you're going to have some people that agree with you, right? And they're going to be yeah, that guy said what needed to be said. But then you're always going to have the other side.
On the flip side, the guy that
this
says,
guy's
wow,
a dick,
100%. And you know what? You make a great point. You know why? Most people realize that and they shy away from being who they are because they're so afraid of what people think. And you'll never get to know somebody for who they really are. They will put up a front or act well. And it's not saying, just say what the fuck when you want to say it. It's saying, I might, listen, I'm human. I step across, I step over the line a few times. I say things that shouldn't be said. But in the long run, I say what most people want to say and I say the truth. But most people have to realize also, whenever I come straight out and I'm nasty and I get into the gutter, it's because someone brought it there first. Most people will know when you get to know me on a different level off the poker table, even you got to know me off the poker table without poker. You'll get to know I'm a very nice guy. I enjoy people's company. I enjoy conversing. I enjoy getting to know other people. I enjoy sharing stories. And, I treat people with respect.
Yeah. I mean, so I got to say, when I first heard of you, it was I don't know, 6-ish months ago or whatever. I was reading the tweets, and to be straight up, you came off like a straight dick on Twitter, man. You were just being really aggressive, sometimes pretty funny, but a lot of times aggro and pretty mean. So right. I kind of expected you to be more like that in real life, but in real life you ended up being a pretty nice, genuine guy. We hung out a little bit. So is there a difference there in kind of how you act? Because I feel on Twitter you're definitely the tough guy sometimes, right? But then in life, I feel you're a pretty social, easygoing guy. What's the difference there?
I think your personality is what's the right word I'm looking for? Your personality is molded and shaped as you grow. It starts out when you're a young guy, and as you get older, you start finding who you are. You act accordingly. You act according to your environment, how you've been treated, what you've went through. And when you come to a point, sometimes you start to mature and say, you know what? Even though I feel this way, I'm going to act more mature and correctly. And then, it comes out to the point. I'll give you a good example. I have a very bad temper. When I was in my 20s or young 30s, if I would go out with, let's say, a bunch of guys and someone would get out of hand, and, they'd get in your face or say the wrong thing, you wouldn't think twice of just punching them dead in their face. As you get older, when someone gets out of line and says something to you, listen, I'm not a kid. I can't fight anymore. I can't punch them dead in their face. And, I'll try to act accordingly until I'm pushed to that limit where I almost want to punch them in their face, but I know it's wrong and I can't do that. Where most people have never raised their hand, if they get to the point where they're super frustrated, they don't know what to do. Or you get someone who's never fought in their life, actually gets pushed to that point, and they wind up hitting someone and then get shocked. Oh my God, I just hit this guy with a chair, or a fight broke out. What I'm trying to say is, yes, everybody comes from different walks of lives, and people look at things differently and people act differently. But I give you another great example. Like when she came out and said, "You're a bitch," on Twitter. Like if that was back in the day in the hood, one of my girls would come and fucking give her the beating of her life. They'd be like, "Would you call my man?" And they'd be like, or like the girl Illis, she tried calling me out the last couple of days and said, "You're a bitch, you're bitching." And my boys texted me and he's like, "Yo, these girls really have no idea what it is to catch a beating. Like, does she realize, like, if she would ever say this to your face or say this out in public, and we were back in the day all hanging out, she'd get dragged by her ponytail up and down the block."
But also, Mike, like, we live in a different world nowadays. I mean, I can speak from, like, my experiences, like, growing up. I definitely wasn't hitting anyone with a chair. And I guess, like, I don't really view the world like that. Like, maybe that's, like, where things, where you're from, like, when you were growing up, that's how it was. But in general, like, in the world, you can't really do that stuff, especially if you are somebody, like, they can come after you and they can win a lot these days. Like, people...
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I get we view the world from different aspects. My point is that not everything has to do with physical fighting. But my point is that if you get to a point where it's disrespectful, usually it comes to a physical fight. And most arrogant people or disrespect people feel they could get away with being disrespectful because they never caught a good slap or a good punch in the face. So my point is people should be respectful, even though there's not a chance of them getting punched in the face, because whether or not that guy could punch you in your face or give you a beating, you should treat that guy or a skinny nerd that never raised his hand with the same respect. And I just feel there's a lot of people in the Twitter world that haven't came from that environment, that never had a fight, that never been put on the spot, either don't care or never think they could just get away with saying whatever they could say because they know they won't be put in that position to get smacked.
I think we're definitely seeing things shift away from being like that, where it's like physical like that. And like, at least in the space that I kind of see, like on the internet, if like someone small tries to make fun of someone big and like the big person like cracks a joke at them, they always win, right? Because they have all these followers that see it and laugh or whatever.
True.
And so like, I mean, personally, like my general attitude is like, I'm always down to like joke around, like if you tell like a good joke about me, like I'll laugh. Like sometimes people have like funny stuff, I enjoy that. But if you're just like attacking me just to attack me, there's like a line there and it's just kind of like, all right, like hilarious.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. You're very similar in personalities as me. You could enjoy a good laugh. You could enjoy someone making fun of you and you could give it and take it. But maybe you don't rub people off like I do, so they might not get as down and dirty with you as with me.
Probably true.
So it's hard for you to understand, but I agree with you. I agree with exactly what you're saying.
So let's drive it back here to like, what was the specific thing? What was like so I know you guys have been like, You guys have
And
always
I know
done.
you're reading. I know you're reading all the little things that are coming across your screen. I know you're holding it in,
I'm just
and
like,
it's okay.
I'm taking it in. I'm taking it in.
I
Um,
can imagine what they're writing in. It's fucking great. I wish I could see it too, man.
they're all over the place. Anyway, so let's talk about the exact instance where you guys got into it. What exactly happened that day that
So
kicked it
so
off?
basically, she comes onto the scene. She has a little bit of Matt Salzberg, Jerry Yang run good, and gotcha, Matt. And she starts doing really good. She's successful. And like I said, with anybody, skill gets you deep. It doesn't guarantee you a win. It only betters your odds. When you play well, you will consistently get deep in a tournament constantly. But to win, you need to run good. And she had the run good. Her cards, would flow her way. It's a lot easier to learn and play the game when you basically pick up a lot of hands. And that's what was happening with her. And we could just see it because whenever I got at the table with her and I watched her play hands, and again, everybody has a bad day or a good day. I'm not saying why. I watched her once and she totally played a hand horrible, so she's horrible. I'm just saying in most aspects, when I watched her play, she was very novice, and it didn't make me dislike her or think she's bad or hate her, but she didn't look at it that way. She just looked at it as, oh, if she played a hand bad, there was a reason for it. Or if she did this, this was the reason, this is why this happened. And it just started to get on my nerves. And she had a lot of success and she didn't accept it gracefully to me. I didn't think she was humble. I didn't think she, this is my point of view. Again, you might disagree and you might not, but this is how I took it. And a lot of people took it the same way because a lot of us in the poker community talk. And we have our own
We do
group of
talk in the
friends.
poker community.
Right. And everybody has their own group of friends and everybody talks shit. And, everybody felt and said the same way. And these are a lot of well-respected, known players. And then there was a lot of players that just couldn't stand her because of her political background, which was another thing I didn't disagree in. But I could never hate a person because of their political background. I like a lot of people out there that are far liberal that I don't agree with. So it came to the point where, I would throw out stuff on Twitter, always in just, fun, good fun and poking and, having some fun. And she butchered an ace 10 hand where she called off, I think it was like 14,000 bigs in a 10K,
Is that an exact number?
in a 10K, like 4 hour round session that, it's a slow structure. You're able, no one's willing to, throw away 10K on a read, whether, you think you're right or wrong with a hand like ace 10 in his bluffing range and, hoping, even, I mean, what's your fucking best case scenario?
Actually,
you're flipping.
So I know the hand. For some of the viewers, I like can roughly give it. It's a lot of stuff that happens in it, and I think that the site, Poker News, might have even like maybe put in the wrong action exactly. But basically, what we're talking about is it went open. Cate calls with ace 10, and I believe the cutoff or the hijack, one of those two spots. The small blind 3-bets. It's Barry Hutter. The original raiser either calls or folds. I can't remember exactly. And then Cate back raised 4-bets with ace 10.
Ace 10 off.
Ace 10 off, to be clear, ace 10 off. And then Barry jams, and then eventually Cate calls it off for like about her tournament life. Maybe it was. I'm not totally sure. So
Now, no exaggeration. This is a $10,000 WPT buy-in.
But
in Vegas.
should the buy-in matter that much? I mean, you should play your game kind of no matter what the buy-in is, right?
Listen, the buy-in always matters, and whoever says it doesn't is an idiot. And I'll tell you why.
I don't think it matters.
I'll tell you why it matters.
Okay.
Because just like when people talk about pay jumps and there's all these different opinions, and I'll tell you why it matters. In a game where you're laying out $10,000 and you're put to the test and you have to make a call, there's hands where you could say, wow, if I make this call, there's a good chance I'm wrong or I'm flipping and I'm just going to burn 10K here. Or I could fold, lose the minimum, and continue to use the skill that's on my side because I'm a better player or have a better advantage in this field and still give myself a shot to win and do well. If you're in a position where it's basically, and I'm talking about that scenario, her best case scenario is she's flipping against, a lot of smaller pairs like 8, 7, 6s, 5s, or she's totally dominated by ace, queen, ace, king, ace, jack. It's never a good call.
or Barry folds. Because I mean, here are my two.
Barry was all in. How is he going to fold?
No, he 3-bet in the small blind. So
You told me he was all in.
Oh, you're talking about the 5-bet. Okay, so Cate 4-bets and then Barry jams, but
Right.
she was getting like. So I actually I think the mistake that she made. I don't like the hand, by the way. I don't like how she played it, but I
Right.
don't think that calling it off was the worst thing about that hand. I think it was the decision to.
Second to worst.
I think it was, yes, the second to worst thing. I think.
I mean, if you don't think it was the worst,
No.
what do you think?
The worst part. Hold on. The worst part of the hand,
Okay.
I think, is the back raise 4-bet for like half your stack, roughly. That
Right, she basically
that
committed
I don't
herself
like.
by saying, "I'm committing myself to this call."
Yeah, and she has.
So for he even more to jam, it's like, wow.
But
I
anyway,
basically
my point here is
Yeah.
like she like her size is bad, the hand is bad. So I'm with you. I think the hand was played badly. But like once she puts that much of her stack in, she's getting like 3-1 on a call or something. So like
didn't she still have like 60 or 70 bigs?
no, she had like 35 or 40. She got
it
like
was
roughly
definitely more than
3-1.
35.
I mean, the hand's bad. Look, I'm not defending the hand. I'm sure.
Right.
I'll ask Kate on Saturday. Do you think this hand was bad? Because I do think it's bad. And
Listen, even listen, before we get into all the technicals, what hand is he ever doing that with? What hand are you beating? What are you looking to accomplish by calling it off? Even if you want to apply fucking math, and in the long run you think, okay, I'm using math here. In the long run, I'm going to be right more times than I'm wrong. It's a fucking fold, no matter how you look at it. He's never bluffing there.
I don't think
you're beating nothing, and you're in a 10K buy-in. It's not like you could rebuy for 1,000. You have to put 10,000 back. Now you have to make 20,000 in the tournament to be ahead in this. I can't. It makes no sense to me.
I mean, look, personally, not good, but she committed herself in. But let's move on.
So that was the hand.
So the ace 10 hand goes down,
right?
And then you guys go to town. Who did you tweet at her first? Like what exactly?
I tweeted at her first.
Of course
said,
you did.
Funny. What happened was that she immediately tweeted something to protect herself. You know, never taking responsibility and just saying, you know what, I think I made a bad call. And everybody would have said, listen, shit happens. We all fuck up. God bless you. Good for you. It was right off the bat, I was getting the right price. And based on his range assumptions, like she's fucking played with him 1,000 times and she knows exactly what his range assumptions is. And she broke it. She loves to talk technical to make herself seem like she knows what she's talking about. And that's what tilts me the most about her. Because most small-minded people are going to try to go along with her and say, oh, really? She was saying based on his range assumption and pot odds. And then when I look at it fucking black and white, you made an atrocious call in a slow structure of a 10K buy-in with plenty of bigs to move on and play the game. You're beating nothing. And that was that.
But I mean, like,
that's it's my opinion.
Right.
You know, it's my opinion.
Okay.
So when she tweeted that out, it tilted the fuck out of me that she didn't take responsibility. She tried to sugarcoat it. And I, for fun, said, it's funny when the cards don't go your way. You need skill to win and you know, whatever, so-and-so. And by her being steaming mad, which is normal, because I get that way too. When you're in a bad mood and someone throws a tweet at you, you tweet back ferociously. She was like,
I'm
tweeted back like
tweeting back ferociously.
Yeah, so she tweeted back pretty ferociously, and you know, I thought it was all fun and games, and it was fucking on.
All right, so you guys went back and forth. It got a lot of hype building up, and then Matt Glantz stepped in and was like,
"That's not what happened.
It's not what happened.
That's not what happened. No." And a lot of people have this wrong.
Okay,
a lot of people have this wrong. What happened is she stepped back. She came back at me, and we were jabbing back and forth. Then she crossed the line where she got very disrespectful, you know, to me as a man, called me a bitch, you know, and later, you know, she wants to. It's funny, but this part I'm serious, and I'll tell you why. When you want to cross the line and call a guy a bitch, it's like me calling a woman a cunt. You know, women take that, and this is the serious part.
That seems different to me. It's a little different.
This is the serious part of the interview. When you cross the line where you're not that familiar with someone to use those type of words towards someone, it's disrespectful. And she took it to the gutter, and I gave her an opportunity. If you go back to the tweets, I said, you know, I think you're out of line. Watch your tone, watch your mouth. And she refused not to. And she let loose, and I'm not going to let, you know, someone like her belittle me or disrespect me. And I fucking gave it to her right back. And it's the old, you know, it's the old saying, she wants respect and treated like a lady and women's rights and this and that. You want to act like a dude, you're going to be treated like a dude. I don't discriminate in that aspect. So you want to act like a man, I'll treat you like a man. Respect me and I'll respect you. So it got loose and we started ripping into each other. Ryan Feldman from the bike, who's now running the game at the bike over there, was like, got involved. She was like, you want to play heads up? I fucking thought it was hysterical when she challenged me to heads up for a few reasons. I obviously knew heads up proves absolutely jack shit. And heads up, I want to destroy her at the table. I want to prove to how bad I could outplay her, how I could win, how I could make her make bad mistakes, bad calls. And the only way you could really get that true effect is at a full game, a table with a bunch of people. But obviously when she stepped up and challenged me, she had no clue what she was doing, because later on when she, asked all her buddies that are well-known and know all about the game, they're like, what are you doing? There's a lot of variance. It proves nothing. You're risking a lot of money. It's like flipping a coin. And she, caught that later. But in her defense, she was pissed, and she, maybe in her mind, thought she was better, and she wanted to play me and stepped up. I would never back down from her. That was never happening.
Well, that's clear. That's very clear.
Plus,
I don't think anyone's worried about that. I
didn't respect her game at all, so there's no way I was backing down. And I said, let's play. So you know what she says? Okay, bye-bye. I go, let's play tomorrow. And she tweets, I'm in Vegas. You know that. How the fuck would I know that? I'm in Vegas with you. I came home.
Because
How do I know you didn't come home?
Because the ace-10 hand happened in Vegas.
Right.
Well, she's saying that's why you know, because the hand is from in Vegas.
But the beef was days after. I'm almost positive.
I thought the gap was pretty small between the two things. I could be wrong. I wasn't involved like you were, but...
And even, it was definitely not the same day or the next day. There was time in between. But even if it wasn't, I was telling her, let's play tomorrow. How does that mean that she can't get to New York, or I can't get to where we're going to play the next day? She came out with a dumb response, a rebuttal saying, oh, blah, blah, I can't get there. I'm like, all right, let's play next week. And she's like, well, I'm going to Europe. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. You're going to Europe. You want to play me. You're stepping up like a dude. You're challenging me. But yet now you're going to Europe. So I kind of backed off of it. And then I was like, wait a minute, this girl ain't going to Europe. She was like, I have a ticket. I have this and that. So later I called her out, show me the ticket. She wound up not going when she said she was going. She didn't go. And I said, show me the canceled ticket. Show me somewhere where and she couldn't produce it because she knows she's full of shit. And that's another thing I don't like about her.
All right.
I believe she's a...
Let me get in here for a second. All right. So can you maybe see where she's coming from in that you attack her for playing a hand badly? And look, we all have hands we played badly, right?
Right.
You attack her for playing a hand badly. She defends herself. And then, it kind of turns into this back and forth. And she feels like she's got to protect herself, too, because in the same way, you don't want to get called a bitch.
Without a doubt.
You're calling her a crackhead. You're calling her all kinds of stuff.
I respect, you see, to stop you in the middle of what you're saying, I respect that. And of course she should do that. Of course she should defend herself. But when she took it to the point of being disrespectful, that's when we started cursing at each other. She again, wants to say I took his manlyhood away, or I called him a bitch. So then I think she's skinny, and I called her, I know she does drugs. Or, listen, I'm not here. I don't want to bash her anymore. I'm not here to talk about her past, I know things about her. So she wanted to get into the gutter. I got into the gutter with her. She called me names. I called her names.
But you did it first, though. I think that's kind of...
No, I did not do it first. That is incorrect. That is 1,000 incorrect.
All right.
Any one of those little herbs on the other end sending you messages. Okay. She came right out, called me a bitch. That was the first disrespectful word. And I said, and as a man, for a woman to call you a bitch, that's disrespectful.
I think as a person getting called a bitch is pretty disrespectful.
Right. But imagine a man calling another man a bitch. It's even more disrespectful.
We got stuff.
That's where it went.
We got stuff. We got to get this. Let's keep moving here. So you guys agree to this format. It's going to be a best.
No, what happened was the bike.
Okay.
The bike. Feldman picked it up. He was like, listen, I'll let you guys play here. And then I'm like, wow, that sounds like a good idea. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm very good friends with Matt, the whole Poker Night America crew. I think this would be great. Let us play on there. So I texted Matt. I said, Matt, I think this would be great for us to play on PNA. He's like, you know what? I'll get back to you. You might be right. I'll let you know. He gets back to me and he says, it's great. Let's move forward with it, and we'll do what we got to do. And then I went out there and tweeted, I'll play you on poker night in America, so and so. And that's where the plan was hatched. We didn't know how far it was going. We didn't know how good it would be. All we knew was that I felt, I liked the kid Ryan. The bike was on the other side of the world in Cali, which is tough for me to get there. I never even go to the WPTs out there because it just takes away too much time from me and my business. And I knew I wanted to do it on the East Coast,
right,
with the crew, and that's how it started.
Yeah. And when Matt reached out to me, he also said, like, are you interested in commentating? I was just like, snap in. I want to be part of this. This is going to be a fun event, right? So you guys agreed to have this challenge.
And you weren't the first choice.
I was not the first choice?
No, you were not.
Oh, my God. Drama bomb. Who's the first choice?
I can't say.
All right.
But, a lot of people came into the mix and they wanted to be, but when your name came up, people were very excited about it. And they were like, you know what? How did we not think of this guy first?
All right. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm glad I got in then. Nice. I snuck on in there. But let's get down to the training, the build up to the match, because you came out and basically said, like, I'm not going to train, I'm not going to do any studying, I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to, like, show her what's up, basically. But do you feel like, there's no shame in saying that clearly you have a full ring background? Why not spend, like, a little time learning, like, some pre-flop basics, some, general heads-up strategies? Because, like, the thing is, you're going to play on, like, Poker Night in America. You're going to have a lot of viewers that are watching you, and wouldn't you want to have, like, a little bit better of an idea of, like, what you're going to do going into it?
See what you just said? I don't disagree with you, but I'll also say this to you. No matter what she did to prepare, which was a lot, take your upswing course. And by the way, I want to first say that I took your upswing course, and I want a refund.
You definitely did not, or you didn't listen.
So she took your course and she prepared. And another thing she was doing, which I wasn't, was getting my hands in the middle of the match. And she was doing whatever she needed to do to win. And I don't fault her for that. But my point is the whole thing about this whole grudge match was us stepping to each other and having a full out, grudge match, using our own money, not getting backed, using our own skill, not getting coached. And as the time progressed, it became a full out, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I was still cool with that because of the main reason I'm very comfortable with my game. I'm very comfortable with the way I play. I know I'm my own worst enemy. I know what I could do in the game. And I've played a lot of poker. I've played heads up. I've played sit and goes. I've played, a lot of all different formats and a lot of different ways. And I wanted to win with my own knowledge and what I felt I could do that started this whole insult war. Now, whatever she did, if we would have switched chairs, that would have went out the window anyway. And what I mean by that is this. Yes, it's just basic common sense. You're playing for money. You're going to practice and try to gain as much knowledge and do what all you want. But for me I'm going to prove to the world and everyone else exactly, what type of player she is and what I could do and what we could do. And I'm one to admit, and I'm not using this as an excuse, I truly believe, and I had that feeling during the match, and when I watched the tape, she ran extremely well. And she basically outflopped me in a lot of hands. And some of my theory in the hands were, I'm going to, I didn't care what my cards were. I was going to steal the pot. I was going to outplay her. But a lot of my instincts kicked in. And when I was leading on a turn or betting a flop, I could see that she fucking connected again. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to triple barrel here. And I don't believe it's going to get through. She has a hand that she has to call, or she had, and I get all these haters that, talk so much shit. And again, I enjoy it. It makes me laugh. And I don't want this to come off the wrong way. 90% of those guys could fucking clean my toilet. But they're all
definitely not going to come off the wrong way there. How could they take that negatively?
Some of the guys in their mind believe they, know more than me or better than me. And it just cracks me up, because they're watching this. But if you watch the tape and you said it, and a lot of other people have said it, whoever was in my chair had about a 15% of winning that match with the cards that were dealt. Yes, there's some hands I played wrong. I'm human. Everyone's going to fucking play hands wrong. And yes, there's hands that could have been played better. and maybe we could have changed, certain things are there, but you got to understand when you're in my shoes and you're on the other side of the table and you can't see the whole cards, and there's let's say you want to win and you want to try to make something happen. Listen, there's been plenty of us there 1,000 times, and there's a lot of talented guys that play cash, and when they're in a seat and things ain't going their well, they pick up from the best and biggest games, even though there's the biggest fish in the world there, and they're the only one fucking losing. They know, hey, it's not my day. I'm not running well. Here's not a good spot for me. I'm going to pick up off this game, and they're great players. I'm in a spot where I can't pick up. I have to play. I have to play with the cards that are dealt to me, and I was getting dealt some fucking horrendous cards. And psychologically, imagine picking up straight draw, flush draw combos and constantly bricking, and her top pair holding up, and her constantly making it. It fucks with you.
A few things here, real quick. For starters, I think that there's no shame when you're not a heads-up player. I think there's absolutely no shame.
No, I'm not a heads-up player.
And trying to learn some basics. Learn some fundamentals for the format.
Of course not. Why there should be no
because the thing is, at the end of the day, it's still a contest. And if one person's going to train and one person's not, let's say that it was a fight, right? And one person trained and one didn't. Who's going to win? Or
Doug, you're right, but the reason why I didn't get coaching is not because I felt shameful.
Let me talk here for a minute here. So that's my first thing. Second thing, as far as the match goes itself, I'm an expert at Heads Up No Limit. It's kind of like what I've played my entire life, right? So it's how I came up. It's the reason that I managed to make it to where I am today. And so I know a lot about the game, and I love the game. And I can say from a neutral standpoint that Cate played a superior strategy to what you were doing. Not in that, she didn't run hot, because she definitely ran hot. There's no two ways about it. Right first hand out of the gate, she has trips, and it didn't really slow down from there. There was a lot of run good. I'm not trying to take away from that. But she also played overall. She played good, man. She played at least solid.
Doug, I don't disagree. I don't think she played horrible. But we also have to understand one thing. Also, how hard is it to play cards like that? Every hand she had,
that's true.
And I actually embarrassed her a few times, and I'll tell you why. When she had ace jack and it went running sevens, and I missed my fucking draws. I knew she had ace high. I knew she had an ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, some one of those type of hands, and her hand's a fucking snap call. And she's sitting there, and I knew eventually she was going to call. And it just hands like that where she had to think, where it's more experience comes into play. That is where, even no matter how much she studied or trained, hands like that still couldn't help her. I believe, and I'm a strong believer in this, you could study and you could learn, but being a natural and studying and learning is different. You will be a better player in the long run. Some people just are all around just better players, and they study and become some of the greats.
Agreed.
Some people are horrible. They could be smart, book smart, and they could train and fucking practice and take all the courses they want. They're going to get better, but they'll never be really good.
Yeah, and Mike, for me, I'm not really afraid to say this. I'm definitely not a natural talent like that. When I look at my career, I started off playing full ring online and just set mining, and then stacking people. Oh my God, he got aces in, getting basically just dropping sets and stacking people. And then I had a couple years, and people that know the online scene, they know this about me. I had a couple years where I really struggled at small to mid stakes, not really doing well, not finding success. I got made fun of a lot for how bad I was. And then, I realized that I just wasn't spending the time on the game to learn because I wasn't a natural. I didn't have the instinct that you need to have to try and win pots the correct amount of the time. And so I just studied, man. I tried to figure out.
And it gave you a bigger drive.
Where am I weak? What do I need to fix? How am I going to make it to the top one day? And yeah, if I had natural talent, I would have gotten there way quicker, right? But one thing that I can say about not having natural talent, and I'm not saying Cate doesn't, I'm saying for me specifically, it forces you to have to work hard, because if you don't work hard, you're never going to get there.
True. I agree with you 100%. Totally agree with you. And it gives you, like I was saying before, it gives you a drive, more of a motivation, lights more of a fire under your ass, because you feel like, what, especially if you're competitive, it makes you realize that you have to, practice that much harder, or you have to put more effort into it, or study more, or just, and I respect that. And like I was saying before, I have no shame in taking coaching. I agree. I could improve my game. Everybody could improve their game. There's always room for improvement. There's always room to get better. I felt I possessed the skill to beat her without getting the coaching. And I still believe that. And I believe if we were both given the same exact run of cards where we both, hit flops and made hands, that I would have crushed her. For the main reason is I would have made her fold hands that she needed to fold, call off hands that she shouldn't have called. And yes, I will agree. There's some hands where I look and I'm like, wow, how the fuck did I fold that? But like I said to a lot of people, when you can't see the other person's hole cards and they're consistently connecting, it throws you off your game. It also makes you second guess yourself.
I would not say that, not to cut you off, I would not say that you made too many folds. Watching the match, like if anything, I'd say you maybe made a couple too many calls. And it just happened that when she did bluff, you had a particularly weak hand that kind of had to fold on boards where it was tougher to have a lot of weak hands. And
yes.
so like
I've seen that.
I don't think that was really the issue. But let's talking about the run of cards.
I think it was a combination of a lot of things.
Let's jump into some hands. Let's jump into a few hands here.
Sure.
And let's start off with the first hand right up out of the gate, because I thought this was an interesting hand. So Cate opens with 10-8 suited. You call with Queen 5, which Queen 5 of course, the hand of the match.
Off.
Queen 5 off, of course. If I don't say suited, it's definitely off. So Queen 5 off. The flop is 8-8-7. You check. Cate bets about half the pot, and you call. And I almost felt like on the flop, I was like, man, this is really setting the tone for how this match is going to go down, because Queen 5 on 8-8-7 is one of the worst hands that you can even have here. So what was your plan in the moment when that happened? Why did you call, and like what were you thinking?
Listen, I totally agree. Queen 5 is a horrible hand. It's not even a playable hand. It's not a hand that connects well. I agree all of that. But my thinking into the match was, I know Cate is an aggressive player to begin with, and I knew she was going to come out aggressive in this match. So when she raised the first hand right off the bat, I said to myself, there's a good chance she has it, and there's a good chance she's looking to set the tone here. I was winning that first hand no matter what, and that's why I called. So now when I called, obviously I didn't connect. She smashes trips. So anybody that's watching the game is like, rest in peace, Mike D. And you have to look at it at my point of view. I obviously have no idea she flops trips, and I don't believe she did.
Well, she didn't.
Right. Well, in my mind at this point is when I call that flop bet, it didn't matter if I had Queen 5 or fucking 2-3 offsuit. I was winning the hand. Comes to the turn, I lead. A nice pot-sized bet, which is gonna make her fold a lot of hands that did not connect.
True, that is true.
Or a lot of hands where even me, taking control of the hand and being aggressive, she also might say, you know what? She might have came into this match saying, I want to, walk on eggshells. I don't want to get caught up. So I'm putting it to all these tests. I'm going to see what she does here. She calls. Once she called, I was shocked. And I processed stuff quick in the game. Right off the bat, I was like, fuck. She has something. Still didn't give her trips. But I'm like, she has a hand that I'm in trouble. What comes on the river? The poker cards. Stick it in my ass nice. They give me a queen. Of course. Now I have top pair. Do I hate my hand? No. Do I love it? No. Do I like it? Yes. And I don't waste any time in putting a nice bet out there. When she calls me, right off the bat, I'm thinking I have the best hand all day long. And if you watch the tape, I'm fucking shocked when she flips over trips. So now I'm super tilted that I just got the first hand in my ass. And it basically made me look like a fucking complete retard because I actually thought I won the hand. Now I'm even fuming even more.
What on that turn lead? I guess this is my main question, because I think once you hit the queen, I think you either betting or betting to make money or checking as a trap, both seem fine. My main question about this hand is what are you repping on the turn? Because it was a low card on the turn, right? It was like a 3 or something. So when you bet that turn, what are you saying that you have? Because, you definitely didn't turn a 3 and you're leading. So you're saying you still played the flop with trips. What do you think?
There's a lot of different hands I'm representing, but it's not up to me to say what I think I'm going to represent here. That's up for her when I lead
Head
into it. I know you're
explode.
shaking your head. No, I know you're shaking your head, and I'll tell you why. I know you're the type of guy is you're saying, and I do. A lot of times you're going to have a game plan when you know you're playing against somebody that's going to believe me. When I'm playing against somebody, when I play against other people, and I call them down with bottom pair, and there's like 2 overs and a flush, and they're like, "How the fuck did you make that call?" Because obviously I know what is their line here. They're leading into me. That doesn't make sense. They're trying to represent this hand, but now they're representing a different hand on the river. So obviously I break the hand down, and that's why I make these calls. So I don't give her that. I don't think she's going to read into it. I'm not taking a line at that point. What I'm looking to do is there are hands that I'm representing, but I also believe that in my mind, I didn't believe she had a real hand. I thought she was going to play the first hand
But the thing
aggressively.
is, it's a dangerous road because if you
It
say
is.
I don't believe you have a hand, and then she says, well, I don't believe you have a hand, then some very ridiculous things can happen, and then
Right.
when that happens, you're in a dangerous place. You're in
Right.
a
Well,
dangerous place. So
you're right. You're right. And I did that for the main reason is I wanted to set a tone without getting too technical. I wanted to win the first hand. I wanted to put her on tilt. I wanted to show her a horrendous hand. I wanted to flip over the fucking queen five.
well, you did.
It was right, right. But I wanted to do it as in a way whereas part of my game is to get into your head. Wow, the guy just called with queen five, bluffed me. What if she folded a real hand and throw the queen five? So it kind of backfired, and it backfired big. So you have a point, but I wasn't. That was what I wasn't trying to accomplish at that given time. I had a different game plan. It backfired. It fucking. I mean, let's talk fucking reality. The girl smashes, trips the first hand, and then I just fucking rip top pair on the
well,
river.
yeah.
No matter how you want to look at it, it's a fucking setup.
The
It's
river
heads up.
the river I mean like the river is standard, like you're gonna lose money, and if like she was on the river in your shoes, she would lose money.
Right.
Poker's not like heads up poker is not about like how can I fold this top pair. That's like it's so hard to get top pair.
Exactly. Exactly.
You now know how hard it is to get top pair in heads up poker, right?
Oh my God,
So
do I ever?
so I mean like yeah, it was lucky from her standpoint, but my argument would be you have so many better other hands. Like why not like a straight draw? Why not
Listen,
like
Doug, I'm not arguing. You're right, but you have to understand something also. It's very easy to critique a hand when it's over. Whether I played the hand right or wrong, you could critique, a hand and say you could have did this and you could. And I agree. I'm not saying it was a great hand, and I'm not saying, it was played perfect, but I'm telling you why I played it and
I
for the
understand.
reason.
I
And
understand.
I wasn't going to play all my hands like that because I would get destroyed. This is a grudge match. There's more to this match than just poker. It was,
Certainly true.
and there was entertainment value behind it. There
Also
was,
true.
there was people that wanted to see, me on tilt or her on tilt. We were going to mix it up a little bit. There's a lot more to it, and I can't defend the queen five saying it's a fucking great call. We all get it. I mean, obviously, to a lot of trolls out there, they're just fucking clueless. They think, oh my God, he played queen five. He's a horrible player. They don't even have a clue.
I mean, I will give you this, Mike. Like, you put up $15,000 per round, sat
Yes.
in there, had thousands of people watching you, and
Yes.
tried to play your game. I mean, like, I respect that, man. Like, how often do people actually sit into the ring? I'm like, all right, let's go. They don't do that. They talk shit in their computer and then don't back it up. So even if I'm like saying like, you played, a hand badly. I'm not saying that like, I'm not saying anything bad about you. I'm just saying like, in that individual spot, probably best just let it go on the flop,
True.
So
Obviously, I can't argue with you there.
let's move on to a different hand, Queen 5 off. So this is another hand that people definitely want to talk about here today. So the final hand, I believe, of the first match, the first round, you called a 20 big blind jam with Queen 5 off. And this is a two-part question.
Yes.
First off, why did you make that call? And then second, are you familiar with what optimal call ranges look like?
Okay. I want to first say something before I forget. I enjoy all you trolls out there ripping me on Twitter because some of them have me fucking crying. Even if you're ripping me, I get such a kick out of it. I enjoy it. You guys are hilarious. And the ones that get out of hand, that get disrespectful, I just give it back to you. But I enjoy it. I find it hysterical. The Queen 5 hand, like you said before, I put up my own money. I put up $30,000. 30,000 to me is not 30,000 to most people in the poker community. And when you're playing a game, obviously someone's playing a 2-5 to someone who's playing a 10-25 or 25-50, their bankroll management is different according to the game they play. To me, this wasn't 30,000 like it is to most people. That's number one. Number two is I act on tilt a lot of times, but I very rarely play on tilt when it matters, I should say, when something means something to me, like a big 10K buy-in or something like that. But in this match, it meant a lot to me, and I started to tilt, and I actually started playing on tilt, which I very rarely do. So to fast forward, I believe that was the last hand. I played heads up, tournament poker, and I do know Queen High is still not a bad hand heads up. And I felt she smelled blood in the water. I felt that, she started to go all in a few times. I felt that she was going to, increase the pressure and put on the heat. I felt like she was going to push with a weak hand, and it was kind of like a snap call. I didn't have a full 20 bigs. It was under that. I think it was 16, but I thought it was even less. I didn't think it was much as I had, to my defense. And that's my own mistake for not paying attention. Because of the whole environment and everything. And you got to keep this in mind. This is a televised grudge match. There's more to it also. And I don't think it was the best call in the world. And you could say I'm not beating anything but a bluff, but I felt that she could be pushing with a lot of hands, suited connectors. And even if she's pushing with small hands, obviously we know Queen 5's not a great hand and it doesn't connect well, but it was more of an instinctive thing. And I didn't know I had as many bigs as I did. That hand was a hand I played horrible.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was 20, but maybe the graphics were wrong when I was commentating. The thing is, like, in those spots, a lot of it has really been solved as far as like what you're supposed to do. The shorter your stack is, the much easier it is for computers to tell you like what you should and shouldn't do. That's why personally I like deep stack games, because you have to get in there and make some real critical decisions that are for a lot of money. And I find the short stack stuff kind of boring. But, that's another thing to say about like, just doing a little pregame work. This stuff's like all online pretty much. You can see like what you're supposed to call it off with or whatever,
Of course. I mean, it's basic ABC, short stack poker, and it's so much easier to play a short stack and shoving ranges. And I get all of that. I mean, listen, we're trying to break down something, whereas, like I said, there's a lot more going into this match. If I was playing a fucking series of 10 matches and it was $100,000, and of course, I mean, but again, this wasn't played that way. Whereas it was just a combination of everything. I wanted to beat her. The cards going against me was my downfall, because even though I couldn't pick up hands and she was smashing, I could have did like I did in most tournaments. Just keep folding and fucking sit there and wait. Even though we know sometimes you could fold no matter what and still get blinded out and lose. But sometimes we've been in tournaments or played cash where you folded for fucking 3 hours and then all of a sudden you go on a heater. So I know there's a lot of hands I could have folded and kept folding and hopefully turned it around and picked up hands. And I love when people tell me that, like, even a fucking moron knows that. I don't need you to tell me. Obviously if I did that, it might look bad, but anybody that knows me, that knows how long I'm playing the game, understands exactly what's going on. And yes, I could have weathered the storm and hopefully tried, but I tried another approach where I tried making something happen. I called with suited cards. Hopefully maybe I could flop a flush draw. I got dealt fucking 10-5 a lot of times, that tilted me. And then there was so many times where I actually started flopping big hands, straight draw, flush draw combos.
Yes, you bricked basically all of them from what I can remember.
Oh my God. Do you know how tilting it is to brick those type of hands consistently? And she just fucking called with like the jack 3 off because she hit top pair. It fucks with your head. And all I could say, it starts ruining your game. But again, listen, like anything, I'm not a big guy that follows, well-known players. And I have a lot of respect for your game for the many reasons. I know you have a lot of success, and I read into you a little bit, when I heard you were commentating. And I know you have a different approach to the game, and I know you understand it differently. And I know it would be hard for you to understand a lot of things I say because you don't know me on that level. But
Yeah,
once you
I
get
get
to know
you.
me, you could understand a lot more of what I say makes sense. And it still probably won't make sense to a lot of your audience. There's a lot of guys that play the game that have a lot of skill in the game that gonna get it. And there's a lot of young.
I would say, Mike, that I think like a lot of people, um, I think they overestimate how much of my audience are just like mid to high stakes regs. But at least here on YouTube, there's a lot of casual people that just stop by to like check out the channel or learn about poker or see some news or whatever. So I think that there are actually a lot of people that can see where you're coming from. It's just when you come from like an exploitative point of view and you're like, okay, I think that she, has these kinds of hands, or like this kind of strategy is going to be good, or, this bet size looks a certain way. The thing about those things, they can work if you're right. And that's the really tough thing, because when you're right, it works out. But when you're wrong, you can really get owned. And in
Sure.
general, I don't really play like that. I don't generally don't teach like that. I try to just stick to kind of more the theory side of things because I feel really confident about what my overall strategy is.
No, makes sense. Let me say something else to you. Um, in the game of poker, I'm sure you've come across, many different styles of play. And one thing that annoyed me about commentary, and when I see people commentate on hands, it's like before the flop comes out, and oh, look at that pre-flop call. That doesn't make sense. Boom, and all of a sudden he flops trips, and they're like, oh, well, I guess he knows what he's talking about. He flops trips, and we
Yeah,
all know
yeah.
it's still a bad call, but the guy flops trips, and then the commentator continues to do a fucking a 180 on the hand and say, well, yeah, and he's extracting value, and he just goes, blah, blah, blah. And my point is saying that even if you play a hand wrong or you're in a pot that you shouldn't be in, we all understand uh, that you can get lucky, hit a hand, knowing your opponent has a big hand, extracting max value now. And my point is saying that it's easy to commentate and critique a hand when you're watching both sides and both hole
So
cards.
are you saying that poker hands here is biased? All my reviews
No,
on
no, no, no,
the
no, no, no. I'm talking more on my match. I'm
I
not talking
gotcha.
about what you do in general. And what you do is great. I mean, obviously, you break it down and you analyze and you explain a lot more game theory to people. And like people say, I'm more of a feel type of guy. But one part of the game that I do extremely well is hand reading ability. I always know I have a great feel for not only what where I'm at in a hand. I know there are two cards almost down to the T, and people see that in a lot, and that's one of my strong points. And I do give off that image, of being a musclehead and maybe not being as good as I am, and it worked great for me because when I play, people will play back against me, and then I wind up making an insane call in the river, and they're basically fucking, they're shocked. I look at them and they're just crushed in a hand, and it, again, it enables me to play back at people that won't give me the respect that they believe I have or earned, and it's just a part of the game that I get and I enjoy it, and it's good. But one more other thing I want to say before unless you got a question, good.
No, go ahead. I mean, we have a few more things to get to though, so
Good.
go for it.
One more thing is I want people to understand also my main objective is to promote the game of poker whenever I do anything in poker. And for the main reason is most people could say, why you have a business? Because I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of people, a lot of good people in poker. And a lot of people rely on the promoting part of it or the journalist or writing about it or anything that has to do with poker to earn a living. And I still enjoy the game also. And I enjoy being a part of poker and doing anything that promotes poker. And what happens a lot when I'm at a lot of tables and I travel and I see a lot of people say, they're just sick and tired of people at the table with headphones on that are quiet, that don't interact,
Yeah,
and
it sucks.
they want to enjoy the game. And a guy said it to me in the last place I was with, it'll come to me, where he busted and he said, I don't even care that I busted. This is true story. No, I know these politicians when they come out with these fucking stories and they're like, yeah, I remember back then, and you could see right through them. It's a bullshit story. This is 100% true story.
All right.
The guy's like, listen, I just busted. It was like a $3,500 buy-in. He said, but I fucking enjoyed myself. I had such a great time. And a lot of people feel like that. The game of poker you're not going to draw new people into the game of poker by watching, 10 quiet guys with headphones on, not speaking, or, they want to be entertained and they want to enjoy it and they want to have a good time. And I believe they need a good combination of both. And this, no matter how it went down, we had a very positive. We had a lot of positive feedback. I think it was good for poker.
Definitely.
We tried making money for charity.
Yeah, that
I
was good.
fuck around. Yeah, I fuck around a lot on Twitter. I bash Cate a lot more than I should. Deep down, I mean, I don't like her. There's some really shit she does, but people seem to like her and enjoy her, and I'm sure she's not a bad person.
Let's actually transition here into this then. So how do
Sure.
you feel, after the match? How do you feel that you played, and how do you feel that Cate played? And give me your thoughts kind of on both sides there.
I believe that Cate um did not play bad. But again, the card she got didn't take a lot of brains to play. I believe most people would have played them, whether they were good or bad, would have played them the same way. It didn't take a lot of thinking. Um, I believe she's a good player. I don't think she's bad. I believe she's the type of player that will get better. She has a drive. She enjoys the game. She's book smart. She knows a lot of people that are successful in poker, so I'm sure her game's only going to get better. But no matter what, she's going to need hands-on training. She's going to need to be in the field to learn all aspects of the game. And I just think she made some big mistakes, which showed her novice. That showed,
Can you give us an
that
example of one of the big mistakes that she made?
there was a hand. I'm going to try to think. I mean, one hand with the running sevens, which was like an easy call. Her flopping trips heads up, which is huge. What is she basically? I don't remember the whole board, but what is she losing to? Obviously, trips with a bigger kicker, a full house. Obviously, I think you're raising there all day long on the river. I'm never folding. At that point, there's too much in the middle. I'm getting the right odds, heads up. So I think her calling right there. But then in her defense, it's the first hand. She doesn't want to get coolered. There could always be ways to defend her play also. In the long run, all bullshit aside, she could be defended as well in any mistakes she made. But overall I don't think she's skillfully on my level. But
So you think
I
after the match, after the chips fell where they fell, you would still say that you think that you're a better poker player than Cate in general, or in heads up specifically?
Oh, without a doubt, 1,000%, I'm a better player than her. This actually, she did nothing to prove she's a better player than me. She did not get me off any hand. There's one hand where, and again, this is why I don't like heads up, because heads up doesn't bring out your true ability. It doesn't show how great you play the game.
You're
No,
talking
I
to a
mean,
heads up guy over here, man.
no. I'm talking in the
Talking to a
game of
heads up.
poker. I'm talking in the game of poker, which we all
What,
mostly
what
play.
else would we be talking about?
No, I'm talking about a full table, a few, mostly all of us will always be playing at an 8 or 9 handed table, and the dynamics are different, and it's a different game. So my point is she has no idea what she was doing in heads up and tackled the game. So my point is that when she played this game, there's a lot of hands that there's one hand here. I'll give you an example where she pulled a great bluff when she had 8-4 and the flop was 7 deuce deuce and I had fives.
Yeah, she got you there.
I didn't play the hand passively and said I'm going to check call and I don't want to be blown off this hand, because I felt I definitely had the best hand and I want to bet for value and take the hand away. So when she raised me and people would have said to me, do you think she bluffed you there? I would have said never in a million fucking years. I don't believe, and you even were taken back. You were like, what is she doing? How
It
did
was
she,
aggressive. Yeah,
it
yeah.
made, but to me, in her body language, she looked like she had the goods, and it was very easy. And heads up, she could have flopped the deuce. She could have had a higher pair like sixes or eights. And if I'm calling the flop, I'm calling the turn. Her style of play, I don't think she's going to lay off the gas. So I looked at it as a hand that could cost me a lot that I could get away from. And no matter how many different ways you want to look at this hand, you can't take that hand away from her, even though it wasn't, the most optimal play. And, that was a good board or she had a good hand to do that with. It still got me to fold and accomplished her bluffing me. But one thing that makes me laugh in the game of poker is that how people perceive other players. the way they talk, if they're quiet in a hand, if they don't interact, that makes them appear. It's like a fighter when you come across two guys that look, equally intimidating, but one of them talks a lot of shit and one of them is very quiet. There, and you're putting money on it. You're like, oh, that guy's gonna kick the shit out of him. That guy's gonna rip his head off, just based totally on how much shit the guy's talking. But when they get in the ring, the quiet guy winds up dismantling him in 30 minutes. So my point is perception and how people are perceived to play.
Definitely true.
Because she's more intellectual and smarter, and people perceive her to be, more of an intricate, math-based player, which holds no weight in my book compared to a player like me, because I use math, I use, reads, I use feels, and I have a good understanding of the game. But like in anything, you can't break down any one person's game on one match. If anybody watches me play on anything that's been recorded from the WSOP down, my videos all speak for themselves. There's very few hands you're going to see that I played bad or played, atrociously. But I will agree that, in the match, it wasn't my best performance. But in my defense, with the hands I was dealt, like mostly everybody said, switch the seats around. Whoever was in that seat had like a 15% chance of winning.
Yeah, or maybe worse. I mean, you obviously ran quite bad there. I think no one's doubting that. All right, so we're going to go into a segment here. I asked on Twitter, I asked on Instagram, 4 questions from the fans that they want to hear from you. So I've got some of the ones that I thought were the most popular or the most well received. So let's kick it off with this one, because I like this one a lot, and I'm gonna change it up a little bit. So straight up, no backhanded compliment here. Say one good thing about Cate as a person, and one good thing about her as a poker player. That's not the start I wanted.
I mean, one good thing as a person, in her defense, I don't know her personally that well. We personally don't know each other that well.
That's the good thing for her?
No. Before I say anything, I want people to know that I don't know her personally. I'm sure there could be things that she's did very well, or, that people are saying, well, what about this and what about that? I might not know about that.
Sure.
So I have to give you an answer based on what I know, which isn't that much. But I give you an example, like Todd Anderson, one of the guys that runs the whole Poker Night in America thing. He's the type of guy, he always tries to find the good in someone, which is very noble and is very good. And I respect that a lot in him. And Todd's a liberal, he's on the left and I'm on the right. And
there are good liberals out there.
There are a lot of good liberals. Some of my best friends are liberal. And I get that in him, and I try that a lot. Whereas I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and find the good in them, because there's something about them that I like, and I try not to get fully turned off. And I'm a good, I believe in giving people chances. And also the fact is, growing up, as maturing as an adult, you'll see there's a lot of people you don't like, but once you get to know them, you're like, you know what, that person's a good guy, or I like that, that guy. And I know she rubbed me wrong in a lot of different aspects, but I never not gave her a shot, because I knew there's probably a lot of good in her that I don't know about.
Let's get back to the question. Say one good thing about Cate Hall as a person and one good thing about her as a poker player.
One good thing as a poker player, I would say, is that she has determination. I believe I respect in her. She's the type of person that if she wants something, she's going to get it. She doesn't allow herself to get bullied or put down. She stands her ground, which I respect. She can hold her weight in the ring with many guys. Also in poker, I believe she has a good demeanor for the game. And what I mean by that is certain people have great personalities off the felt. You could get along with them. You could have a beer. You could enjoy their company. I had a great time. I can't wait to go out with so-and-so again. Some people you're like, wow, that guy's boring. I had a horrible time. I don't want to hang out with him. That's the same thing on the felt. certain personalities are effective in poker, being serious, pulling off a bluff and not showing that you're nervous. She possesses a bunch of those qualities, which I think will help her game.
Good.
And
Yeah.
I respect that about her.
Okay, good. That was actually a great answer. All right. Well, it's funny because my next question I had written down here was, what would Cate have to do to earn your respect? But you just kind of said that you respect that about her. So I don't know. Is there any event that she could win, or what would she have to do as a poker player to really earn your respect?
Tell me if this makes sense to you, but
Okay.
as we all study the game of poker, we all realize this, and I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. The game, there's still a lot of luck involved in the game. No matter how
Tons.
well you play, you see certain people. I'm going to give you a great analogy, and you tell me if this makes sense. Like in a neighborhood where I hung out in, it was mixed, biracial, black, white, Spanish, and we used to play basketball. And there were some kids that were fucking naturals. They just played great from the beginning, and they would practice and become one of the greats. And there was a lot of guys, they were like two left feet, they couldn't play, and they practiced and became better. I strongly believe that's in the game of poker. You have certain people that run very well. There's 2 meters. There's a luck meter and a skill meter. They both come from 0 to 10. I think there's certain people that start out with a 7 or an 8 in the variance or luck meter. And there's someone that starts out with a 2 in the skill meter. That skill meter could always be improved to a 10. You can practice you become one of the best. That variance or luck meter, you have no control over it. The
Totally.
cards
I,
control that.
I agree with that 100%.
So there are people that come into the game that have their run good right off the bat. They do phenomenal. They even play better. Then all of a sudden the run good fades away and they can't fucking win a hand or win a tournament. They're suicidal and they can't understand why, because they came into the scene not knowing all the aspects of poker. So I see that in people. And there's certain people, which happen to be good friends of mine, that run really well. And I tell them, practice. You're going to become one of the greats. You could hang around for a long time in this game. Just like there's a lot of guys I play with, they're fucking unbelievable, but they always run bad. They get kings, the other guy has queens. They flop a set, the other guy has a bigger set. And I think that's going to happen no matter what. So good.
I was gonna say, so what could she do then to earn your respect in poker?
She doesn't listen. She already has my respect.
Okay, cool.
She already has my respect. To earn my respect as being a better player than me, I believe that she could practice and get a lot better and probably be a better player than me. But I just believe, and as I'm sure in most poker players, we all believe that we're great players and better than maybe we really are. But I know I've had times where I know when I put my head to it and I said I'm playing great, I could play phenomenal. And I know my best game and I know my worst game. I have seen a lot of her game. And I wouldn't be, saying as much shit about her, and this whole grudge match would have never came to be if she didn't rub me the wrong way. But like I said, I mean, this was a full-fledged grudge match. We both totally had a disliking for each other.
Definitely.
And we both deep down understood that. We realized, there's a lot of people that dislike us both. For the main reason we're both outspoken to the far right and the far left and speak what's on our mind. And it was more of a TV presentation / ego / money / everything. So
it was great. I was really glad to get to commentate. It was a lot of fun. I think the community loved it. Even though people were like, oh, like, they're just like hyping it up or whatever, or, oh man, like you just got run over, or they say bad things. It was great, man. It was great for poker. It was great to get people talking. It was great to get people from both sides kind of coming into it. I think it was fantastic. So let's get through a few more of these questions real quick here. So this one's kind of a serious one. What is a healthy amount of Red Bull to have in one day?
That's pretty funny. I mean, we were kind of like, I guess, being sponsored by Red Bull, and it was a Red Bull party, and I stopped drinking Red Bulls for a while. I would take them for energy, but the ones they have a lot of sugar in them, and the other ones that don't have sugar have aspartame in them, which is very bad. It might cause cancer. So I stopped taking the sugar-free one. But that night, I have a hard time sleeping in hotel beds, and we were up late the night before. I was playing with you, Cash. We were playing 5100, at 3 o'clock in the morning before the match.
Oh yeah,
And
it was late.
it was late. Everybody, you
The
guys
the
were like, Mike,
channel
you got to match.
actually, you guys saw the table we played at because it was that table where I did a flip with Jeremy, and I like streamed it. So you guys, that was the table where we were playing 51, and Mike was by earlier. Luckily,
Listen, the game was
it was good.
Yeah, the game was fucking great. It was so great that I had a match the next day, and I was not leaving the game. This was a fucking juicy 5100. Sean, the luck box fuckface, set over setted me as usual on a fucking dry board. And it was a game I wasn't going home till I fucking, I wound up doubling my money right off the bat, and I wasn't leaving till I had like 20K in front of me. I started out with like 7 or 8 or something, but I wound up getting Sean set over setted me, and I wound up picking up. But I didn't get any sleep. The game was juicy, and the next day I was tired, so I fucking said, "Let me stop pounding down, Red Bulls," and hence pounded down a bunch. I think I only took maybe like 3 or 4.
I mean, man, we were counting for a little bit, and then you were like 3, 4, 5 deep, and the camera was on Cate, because me and Sean were commentating. The camera's on Cate, and she's about to grab chips, and then we hear like, just like we just hear the sound of you like just like popping another one open, and like the chat just went wild. It was amazing.
I was kind of, I watched the chat. I really enjoyed it. And, I was starting to get some feedback in the beginning, and I'm like, from my aspect of what I saw, I knew there was a couple of hands I played, bad, but I also knew the way the cards were flowing. And when I watched, it kind of confirmed a lot of what I said. And I was shocked at Sean running his mouth in the beginning, because I got, in the match, Cate was looking at her phone constantly, and I kept telling her, "What are you doing?" And, a lot of us guys, will usually make an agreement. Listen, nobody looks at their phones. Nobody gets any information from the feeds. Let's just, so-and-so. We never made that agreement, which we should have. But after a while, I seen her that she kept checking her phone and probably getting hand updates, which she told me she was, and finding out what hands I folded. I didn't do that once, but I started checking my text messages. And one of my good friends who actually plays really well, he's like, "Yo, Sean's supposed to be your boy," because he knows I'm friends with him when we talk. And he's like, "He's fucking throwing you under the bus." And I was like, I was cool with that, because I know we're all having a good time. We're going to crack jokes. But he didn't tell me in the way Sean was throwing me in the bus. And I was kind of shocked myself, But then again, everybody knows Sean has a certain personality, and he does things in a certain way. And I like Sean as a person and as a friend. I think he's a solid stand-up guy. So I kind of brushed it off. But the good thing about it was he did see, and he did bring it to everyone's attention, that I had a very good read and made very good reads on a lot of aspects, and you both did. I think no matter what, you guys are on a podcast, you do want to, say the hand histories, but you also want to have fun, and you also want to take some shots, and, all around, I can't argue. I think you both did a great job. And,
Yeah, I mean,
I was
so you kind of hit like a couple things I want to talk about, but first with Sean, and we talked about this a little bit before we went live. Sean's a great guy. I've known Sean for many years since I started when I got into poker. I knew Sean Deeb was, and so I haven't seen him much the last few years, but I got to hang out with him. Great guy, but he definitely views poker different than like life.
Yes.
He doesn't view it the same way. Like, he slow he just slow rolled me on the show where he announced King High.
And he doesn't think of the fucking the collateral damage from a slow roll. He just fucking sticks to you no matter what.
I will say, once you know that about him and he's like that, then it's just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna throw it right back at Sean at like any point. If I can slow roll Sean a big pot, even a smaller one, I'm gonna do it still. So like, yeah, it's probably a little more aggressive than I would like to be, but at least you kind of know where he stands.
It's true. That goes back to knowing, the good in certain people and getting to know people. Like, I'll give you a good story. Everybody, I'm sure, knows Will the Thrill, right? Will Fiala. Will's a successful tournament player. He plays a lot of tournaments, and the one thing everybody knows about Will is he's a cheap motherfucker. Like, he's tighter than a clam's ass. You can't get $1 out of him. And, in a close knit of friends, people lend money back and forth all the time. And I ever need money, I borrow. Any of my close friends need, I lend it. And Will has borrowed money from me in a few times. And I remember one time I was stuck and I needed money, and Will's like, I don't got it. And I knew he had it. He just won a tournament. Oh, I shipped it back, and he had 1,000 excuses. And I said, you know what? Fuck this kid. I want nothing to do with him. He's a jerk off. He needed money. I gave it to him. I hardly knew him. I gave him a 5K chip in the PCA, took him out to dinner with me and my family. It was like a $200 steak dinner. I didn't even know I took him out with the family and paid for him. And it rubbed me the long way. And then once I got to know Will, I realized Will does it with everybody. That's who he is. He's very conservative. He doesn't lend money out. And I didn't let that hurt our friendship, because, you get to know him, and Will's a really good guy. And that's just with anybody. You can't judge a book by its cover, and you can't, hold one thing. So when Sean has a certain personality, I know he gets a lot of hate on Twitter, and a lot of people fuck with him. And, he also gives it, but he could take it. But to set the record straight, I'm not a firm believer in slow rolling people that take it the wrong way or might get hurt by it or upset about it. I like to do it to certain people you could have fun with, whereas I think Sean would slow roll his mother and and enjoy it fucking enjoy it.
I think so
So you just got to get to know Sean. But
yeah,
Sean, if you're listening, I'm not too upset, but you still have to lay off the cheeseburgers.
All right, so let's go through. Nice. So let's go through a couple more questions, and then if you have any last thoughts, we'll go through that. So you talked about like sending hands during the match. This is another question that someone asked. In a situation where both players agree not to, I would say that you should expect not. But if there's no deal beforehand, I would generally expect that it would be okay. So why did you not have someone sending you hands during the match? I guess, did you think that she would be getting it? Would she be getting it? Or why didn't you talk with her about it?
You know what? It never came up. I noticed it as she was doing it. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, just because it was almost disrespectful. You see someone going down constantly. But then again, I don't want to start bashing her again, but I just think she's the type of girl, she's going to do everything it takes to beat me, which some people might view as nothing wrong, which it really isn't. But in another aspect, it's like certain people saying, I will do anything to win, even if it's unethical. Whereas I'm the type of guy, I will do anything to win that is ethical. If I have to cheat to win, I don't want to win that way. It would never sit inside me. I'm a super fucking competitive person, and especially in sports. And I hate to lose. And if I lose, I come back stronger and I play better and harder. And that's the one thing that tilts me about poker, is if someone beats me, or even gets lucky or outplays me, I want to tear their fucking head off in the game. And you could come at them and trap them and still lose the hand and fucking go berserk. So, I believe in winning, but not by any means necessary.
Well, I mean, I totally agree with that, but if it's not outlined if you should or not, like, it seems pretty reasonable to me to think that it's okay, Like, if we never said anything and it wasn't talked about, I would kind of assume that means you can,
Doug, I could have prepared much better for the match, if that's what you're getting at. I could have had someone reading me. I know your callers are saying that. I could have had someone read the hands. I could have got coaching, and fucking no one would ever know. I could have, took your upswing course. Again, I want my money back. It sucked. And, I could have even befriended you and said, can you give me some pointers and let's talk about it. But the point is, I wanted to win on my own merit, because I felt that I could beat her without anything, without getting the hands, without fucking taking a course. And I still feel that way. And if she would like to, I will give her a rematch and we will play again. We'll see, exactly what goes on. But the thing about it is this: what I don't like about the game of poker is 99% of the people don't put up their own money. Don't, and that's what it's all about. When you put your money where your mouth is, when you put your own money up, because if you lose, it hurts more.
Yeah.
If someone else puts the money up and you lose, no fucking big deal.
But the thing is, you might lose. For the viewers, like, the point kind of for them is that they don't have to put up the money because they don't have it, or they're not in that situation, or they don't want to, or whatever. So for them, like, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, but I get that. That's the way it is, but it also changes things. It's like saying, someone running their mouth and you challenge them to a fight and they call their brother to beat you up. I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
my point is it's not saying it's wrong, but my main match would be to play somebody that would put their own money up and would play like a lot of people said, why don't you get this match on next week so she can't get coached and she can't get. And honestly, I was like, let her get all the coaching and the skill. This match is because we both feel we know how to play the game. And even though she's challenging me to heads up, I have more of an edge and I play more heads up than she did. So I didn't mind if we played heads up. Obviously, as the months progressed, she got coaching, but I don't think it mattered in this match. Whereas it could have, and it could have, and I would have looked bad if she outplayed me and played better than me. But I don't think that happened in this match, and it proved it. If you know what you're doing and you watch the game, watch the match.
All right, well, that's it here for the fan questions. Mike, if you have any last thing anything you want to say to the audience about the match, about just like your general thoughts, anything you want to let them know, now is the time.
I mean, overall, I want to say that all in all, people have a lot to say. There's a lot of trolls out there that run their mouths and talk a lot of shit, and the ones that are good people out there that are want to learn and want to get an honest opinion and want to put their 2 cents in, guys like you will always be respected, and guys like you keep pushing on and keep practicing and keep being who you are and be a good person. Me, deep down inside, I know I'm a good guy, but I also will tell it like it is. And there's a lot of you out there, a lot of trolls out there that I hate to say this, but I don't think you deserve any respect because you guys don't give it, and you guys are disrespectful not only to me, towards a lot of other people. And as long as it's in good, clean fun and everybody's wants to diss somebody and have fun and rank on it, I think it's great. But just keep it respectable. Be respectful and try not to get out of line. And I think everybody could have a lot of fun, having fun on Twitter and so and so.
All right, wise words. One last thing here, actually. Matt Glantz told me if I want to get onto the show on Poker Night in America in Choctaw in about a month from now, I have to ask you on the show. So am I invited?
I mean, I would definitely want you to be there for a lot of reasons. I enjoy your company. I think you're a great guy. You're always smiling, exactly like me. You're always, you're good spirits, which is great. I enjoy your company. I definitely want you there. Even tell Matt, and plus we could have some fun because I will slow roll you too.
I'm sure you will. All right, Mike, thanks very much for joining me here today. Everyone, I'm going to
Thanks
be doing...
for having me.
What's up?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So we're going to be doing a stream with Cate Hall on Saturday at 10 a.m. Going to be streaming on Twitch tomorrow at 3 p.m. as well. So, yeah, that's it for me. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys later.
Take care, guys.